So I just want to take a minute to talk about this load in particular. This is all 2.5. This is predominantly known as skid loads, and typically what you're going to have is you're going to have all your couplings facing out. And that's nice because it's identifiers, so you know exactly what that is. You can pull this tier and get a 100-foot section, or however tall that's going to be, 150, 200 foot, but predominantly it's 100 feet. Some of the advantages to this are it's great if you only want 100 feet of hose and you want to maybe take it up in a high-rise evolution, or you want to do an extension off of something. But a lot of departments, you'll see typically anywhere from 300 to 800 feet of this in the back, and it's all loaded like that. One of the big issues with that is they'll say that they're using it either for a supply line or an attack line. Well, if you're going to have that much hose in the back, maybe consider if, how much high-rise operations do you really do? How many times have you had to branch off and extend an extra 100 feet or so? So maybe leave 1 or 2, maybe even 400 of that 800 feet as skid loads, and then connect everything else in essentially what you call a dead load, or everything's bulked up and connected together. What that will allow you to do is be able to make a long stretch for supply if you have to drive out, or if you want to do a longer extended attack, something past what your pre-connects can reach, and you still want to deliver that big package, a big hit with that 2.5 nozzle. One of the issues that you're going to have here too as well is what kind of staffing does your department have? What's the topography like? So if you've got a district that's got a bunch of windy roads, long 300-400 foot stretches, this isn't something that might necessarily cater that's going to work really well for you. If you've only got 2-man engine companies, predominantly most of the US has maybe 3 guys on an engine company, everyone's got a role to fill. So if you got a nozzle guy and you want to utilize the most effective, efficient role for one guy to pull potentially up to 300 feet of hose, this may not be that. Essentially what you'd have to do if you want to stretch this for something that's 200 to 300 feet is you're going to pull this out, and you'll probably either go down to where your entry point's going to be. A second guy, if you're lucky, will come back and grab this. In some departments, it might be you coming back making multiple trips. That's not effective, it's not efficient, that can take a ton of time, and you're going to be exhausted before you even make an entry in, especially if you're on an upgrade hill or incline or anything like that. Another thing that you can do to kind of speed that process up, if this is still something your department is going to use, is to pull out these 100-foot sections, lay them on the ground side by side, make your connections, and then grab your nozzle and a couple pieces of brass, and that will allow you to pull more hose at once without having to come back to a rig. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the faster version of that, where you set it all down on the ground, and we'll see how that plays out. And then are you recording? Okay, so that load that I just showed you, that was that skid load pulled down to allow you to make those connections and pull a little bit more hose a lot faster than if you were to pull one section and continuously go out. Another option that you can do, and you're seeing a lot of departments do these, where you're going to call them flat loads, modified flat loads. Essentially what this is they're 100-foot tiers. Just like before with the skid load, you have an identifier. Instead of brass couplings, or whatever you want to call them up front, you're going to have a dog ear. At the bottom of each dog ear, when you pull this or flag, you're going to have 100 feet pull out. every time. You're never going to be guessing where that back connection or that 100-foot coupling is going to be, because as you pull that out, as soon as this falls on the ground and you shoulder it, that 100 piece of brass or that second piece of the 50-foot section in the back is always going to be there. So you're never going to have an issue wondering where that's going to be at, and your engineer's just pulling more hose trying to find it. So that being said, what's nice is on this, and before, not trying to discredit it, you could, if you're proficient with it, you may have had a nozzle on a skid load type setup if that's something your department has practiced. This is a great way to do it. We got a 50-foot bundle right up top. We got our 2.5 nozzle already on it. We got a strap connecting these two things together, makes it super simple. So if I went to go pull this out, simply I would just turn, shoulder, and I'd turn around and I grab a flag or a bite depending on how much hose I want to pull. If I don't want this first 50-foot section, what's great about this and the way you can fold this is we have this first connecting piece of brass to the first 100 piece of supply right behind. So if we decide that we're wanting to extend off of someone or make a longer line and we're not doing something with an intact package, we can DC this brass, put this bundle aside, whether it's up top or on the ground, and now we have 100-foot sections. That being the case, I would pull this 100-foot section and I could shoulder that, walk out, and an engineer can DC that in the back, and now I've got 100-foot sections just as well. Again, the nice thing about this is one person now can pull multiple lengths or long distances of hose by easily identifying which flag to grab. So if I wanted to sit here and pull 200 for like a Minuteman type load, I could turn here, I would shoulder this load here for my first 50, I would walk out for a little. This hose is going to start playing off here, because on this load we're going left to right. If your department wants to do right to left, that's fine, however you guys would work that. This comes here. However much hose comes off is not the issue. We're just concerned about what this is grabbing. If I want to grab this, again, this is a 100-foot identifier. If I grab this and hold on to it, it's going to dump this first 100. Once it's dumped, it's going to start playing off of the second tier, just like when I grab this, it played off the first. Realize that if you're going to hold on to this and walk, you're now pulling two 100-foot sections. If you're a beast and you can do that, and you want to got a long, nice, clean downhill stretch or straight, you can do that. I would recommend, if you're going to do that though, you're going to take this out and shoulder this. I would put your arm through it, get it on, and walk. It'll pull out real easy. It's cake. You walk. Now you're pulling two 100-foot sections. Once it pulls tight, you drop it. You can turn around and grab more hose and walk that way till it pulls tight. But what's nice with this is you have your 50 to make entry with, and then you can still pull all that hose by yourself in one fluid move right off the truck. In this first portion here, what I'm going to show you is how quick it is to go ahead and DC this first 50 feet, or this attack bundle package, the front part of it, if you are not wanting to use that and you want to put it aside and just pull 100-foot tiers. So if you're going to do that, again, you just pull it out. Again, that brass is right here, makes it really nice. You don't got to sit there and worry about dropping it on the ground. All of this is going to vary too, depending on how high your hose bed is or how low. I can pull this out to the side, and that's not an issue. That's out of the way. Now I can start working like I was before with the skid loads, where I have dedicated 100-foot tiers. When I go to pull this out, it pulls real smooth, right? I'm going to turn around, shoulder it out, walk out. I'm not too concerned, but as I walk out, right behind me, I have that 100-foot piece of brass I was talking about. This is where your engineer can make that quick DC, and it leaves it out here for somebody else to either come up and shoulder this or turn around. Real quick, real easy, real nice to get another 100 feet on your shoulder real quick and take off wherever you need to go. Okay, in this portion of it, I'm going to show you pulling that full length, what one firefighter can do. Now, again, when you're shouldering this, if your intent is going to be for an attack, if you're going to shoulder your first 50 feet, again, remember that this pretty much mimics a Minuteman. These are 100-foot sections. So if you're looking here, these are identical. The only difference is we don't have that indicator or flag marking the 50 feet. But we know by looking in the middle that roughly if we grab one of these, we can pull it just like a Minuteman and have 100 feet pulling. So that way, when you go to drop it, you have something, you know, right around your wrist. So in this next portion, we're going to shoulder this. I'm going to go ahead and actually pull two 100-foot sections, showing that how well it can play out of the bed and how nice and smooth it is for one firefighter to go ahead and pull that. Again, that's going to most likely be in an ideal situation, a nice straightaway, maybe an alley. A lot of times the engine does pull past a building and you got to run back 150 feet, making room for your truck or whatever that is. but just know that this doesn't always have to be pulled with two 100-foot sections. That's heavy. Roughly every 50-foot section of 2.5 is going to be anywhere from 40 to 50 pounds depending on the manufacturer. So you're looking at pulling roughly 200 pounds. But with your body weight and everything leaning forward, it's a lot easier said, you know, and can be done at the same time. So I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like. So as you can see, that played out really well. Again, I'm not saying that that's necessarily easy or always going to be optimal, but that is something that you can do with this load. It will play out every single time. Second guy can bump up and just start pulling hose off the same. It's just going to play, and it's going to go from tier to tier to tier, or sorry, stack to stack to stack. And if you have a second tier, however you want to do that, and it'll just escalate its way all the way back down. But again, also really nice about this is that if you don't want to do that, or say maybe your first guy, or like I just did, I shouldered that and I didn't want to pull anything behind me, number two guy could come up right behind and shoulder that 100 and then pull the flag like I had done, and he can assist me and flag out the hose. Engineer can also additionally pull even more hose if that's needed to get that stretched that far. As you can see, this first tier I pulled, I had 50 on my shoulder, pulled the full 100 here. The second 100 played out, and it even started going to this third tier and got about 50 feet down. So that was a 300-foot pull, realistically and ideally not too bad, but something you should realistically be ready and train for. And if you have minimal staffing, this is a very ideal type of load. So I hope that kind of worked out for you. If you have any questions or anything like that, I'm going to go ahead and include my email in this. Please shoot me any questions or concerns. If you saw something I could have done better, let's go ahead and share that information, pass it around. But other than that, I hope that kind of shed some light on how this load kind of works for you guys.